I wanted to talk to you today about an English word, a Latin word called numinous, which is the closest translation to this experience in English, which is Rudolf Otto revived the word in 1917 and he described it as arousing spiritual or religious emotion, mysterious or awe-inspiring, and he called it the mysterium tremendum. That means, just imagine that it is something you perceive that overwhelms you with the mystery of its magic. And this idea of the mysterium tremendum was picked up by Jung, Carl Jung, Maslow, C.S. Lewis in his Narnia Tales, Aldous Huxley in his Perennial Philosophy talked about the mysterium tremendum as an Upanishadic thing, as a Vedic thing, not as a Tantric thing, because he didn't know about Tantra. And then Groff used it in describing the LSD experience, and Poland, sorry, that's a wrong spelling, described it when he took DMT, and Harris and Dawkins talk about it from the scientific point of view, that one can stare at awe at the universe. And this painting called what's it called? Frommalion, is a painting from Hermetic principles of the idea that if I can crack through the veil of this so-called reality, just on the other side of any curtain I pull, any part I take, is a magical reality behind it that opens up to me. This is the fundamental principle, that just a little bit beyond perception lies something magical. When Michael Pollan took 5-MeO-DMT, 5-MeO-DMT, which is a form of accelerated DMT, which is much faster in working than in ayahuasca and other things. And Terence McKenna said similar things when he took psilocybin at 5 grams and more, was that here words fail. In truth, there were no flames, no blast, no thermonuclear storm. I'm grasping at metaphor in the hope of forming some stable and shareable concept of what was unfolding in my mind. In the event, there was no coherent thought, just pure and terrible sensation. Only afterward did I wonder if this is what the mystics call the mysterium tremendum, the blinding, unendurable mystery of whether of God or some other ultimate or absolute before which humans tremble in awe. Wow. So they describe 2 stages. I describe 2 stages, which is that the first stage is this idea that I experience the mystery in everything. And I feel awe and grace and beauty, and this is within the mother's womb. But then certain points when I get to the edge of that reality, I seem to be tumbling out of this reality into something else. I seem to be losing control. I seem to be falling off a precipice, and that idea of the void, that collapsing into the void, that idea of this vast nothingness seems to be sucking me in, right? So what Shaktiism does, and the sacred feminine work does, it says, look, that's not how it really is. It's really a loving, beautiful energy that's everywhere for you. And if you experience it, you will enjoy bliss. So even if you fall off the cliff, I'm here. Work with me. I'll take you. That's where Shaktiism has so much power. All the Kriyas do is shoot us to the other side. But if we don't do the Hreem and the Shreem, we can't get to the lovely feeling of bliss that will come. So whenever the shamans or the mystics in the Western traditions or in the more masculine Indian traditions go on these extremes, They call it like dying, extreme. It's like fearful death, you know, Kundalini syndrome, all that crap. But the Sri Vidya and Kali Vidya tradition say, no, it's loving. There's nothing to be terrified of. But you must let go. And I'll show you that there is no terror. But you have to let go. So what happens is, it's two different paths to the numinous, right? So on the one hand, the Western esoteric tradition, the Jungian traditions, the Hermetic traditions, the Kabbalistic traditions, all talk about getting to a point where one is in the face of the beatific vision of God and one is in awe. So it just one, oh my God, right? And all of them talk about, at that point, surrender. Let go. Islam. Islam means to surrender. Salam. I surrender. I bow in the face of that awe. While Tantra and Shakti says, in the face of that awe, dance. Make love. Live life. See beauty in everything. Experience joy. I don't know about you, but I'd rather go down that path, right? I don't want to go down some path where God makes me surrender and crush on my knees and says, I beg, please forgive me, please, 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 sorry. I'm a sinner, I'm a useless fellow, I'm nothing, I'm an illusion, I'm a speck of dust on a galaxy with nothing in it. I don't want to be like that. I want to experience the love of this dance that's going on. How can it be anything but love? Yes? We also have this ultimate awe. We call it the Turiya state, where we kind of go into that black nothingness of Kali or Shiva or Bhairav, and we experience that fear. But we know that around it all is beautiful love and grace. In the in-between world, in the Western tradition, in the Gnostic tradition, this is Dante's vision of heaven, it was always considered to be that God would show himself to you as light, and you would be taken through this journey of a tunnel, like a near-death experience, to angels and ancestors would carry you to the other side. It was not dark and gloomy, it was beautiful and angelic and magical. So there was this imminent vision in the Shakti tradition, and one could look at this numinous, in nature. One could see it in magical realities everywhere you turned in nature, and you could create them with your own sacred geometries and your own path, like in Sedona or in beautiful hills or anywhere. You can create your own magical place to transform your reality. You could do it even in standing on top of a skyscraper in the city and seeing the patterns of unusualness, right? There's beauty and luminosity in that. You can see it in nature. This is dewdrops on a spider's web called Indra's net. How you can see that each crystal contains the whole of reality. You can see magic in everything. You can see it even in the most horrible destruction. When a volcano goes or a nuclear device goes, there is a moment of awe and shock and bliss at looking at something. Then of course you get wiped out, but that moment is ecstatic. People who saw the first atom bombs and nuclear bombs being tested said it was the most beautiful thing they'd ever seen in their lives. 1,000 suns lighting up. How can death be so beautiful and luminous? Or you can see it in sensual pleasures of erotic or nature or music or sensuality of any kind. You can sense it, you can feel it. And the most important way to do it, as we did earlier, is in between things, between dark and light, between night and morning, between evening and night, between this and that, between one thought and the other. These in-between states are the surest way to get into these states of consciousness, the Turiya state, the in-between state, between being aware of everything and dreaming, between dreaming and deep sleep, between deep sleep and vast consciousness. All these are in-between states. So I can cultivate in-between states. And the metaphor used is to be like a turtle or a tortoise and withdraw your senses into your inner world and antarmukhi, inwards, to see within, to pull yourself in and disconnect from out, and then you will see everything. But then you do it with the eyes open and you see even more. And the idea is that light comes into the darkest places of your being and removes the cobwebs and removes the crap and burns it all away and clears the path for you. And then you see this luminous, amazing light. If you work at it, it comes through. And then you go to the void and you're not scared anymore. So you can go through these journeys of nature, of, in fact, when in 1840s, the great poet Ralph Waldo Emerson got a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, translated into English from the German. It was the first time the beautiful book of the Vedanta had come to America. And there were 3 copies in the whole of the United States, and he had one, right? And he read it, and he said that it was as if he was sitting in the nature worship of the Ganges and absorbing this ancient culture that was coming to him, that was teaching him to be in vibration with nature, to be in vibration with each other, to vibrate with everything. And his whole movement of transcendentalism, which led to the Unitarian churches and other things, came out of that, right? And when you look at the history of Unitarianism or Transcendentalism, you see that they were, at that time, protesting against industrialization, labor, factories. So while on one hand, Karl Marx was writing about communism and equalizing everybody into a life, they were also, in a way, talking about a similar thing where they wanted to reconnect with nature. They wanted people to automate more so they could work less in factories and spend more time in leisure and art and poetry. And there was this great movement in the 1800s in Europe and in America to reconnect with nature. And Indian wisdom played a major role in helping that occur. And what they were trying to do was to teach people to be whole, what Carl Jung later called individuation, which means that it wasn't necessary to be perfect. You know how we always talk about super perfect, perfect being, perfect body, perfect yogi, perfect this. It's all bullshit. What they were saying was that, am I a whole person? And am I evolving in my wholeness, right? And what does a whole person mean? A whole person means one who has time and awareness to see this magic in the world. You know, we get so caught up in the work we're doing or in the mantra we're learning or in the focus on a particular type of meditation that we miss the whole numinous wonder that's happening right there in the window or in the nature out there. We miss it completely. So the whole practice here is to awaken that numinous quality so that you are able to see the magic all the time, you know. And this is not meditation. This is awareness, self-observation. That means which me is looking, which me is in the world, experiencing this moment. Because I'm so stressed out, did I miss the butterfly fluttering its wings over there? You know, because I'm so anxious about COVID and politics, have I missed the laughter of the child and nature that's calling me, right? Have I forgotten who I am in the pursuit of making money and working 12, 15 hours a day and killing myself? Right? Have I developed cancers and ulcers and all kinds of things in my body that because I neglected my love for myself and eating properly and being healthy and healing myself? How did I forget to make love to myself in all these points of my life, right? So the numinous person is one who is perpetually in awe at the mystery around you, but in a loving grace way. That's Shakti, you know, to be with nature, right? To be with each other, to be with love, to be touched by music, you know. How many of you, while sitting there doing your work, put on a piece of music or listen to something you love, right? It doesn't have to be yogic music, for Christ's sake. That's nothing. It can be an old rock and roll tune or a piece of jazz or some hip hop, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Does it make you remember who you are? Does it bring you back to the present over and over again and be in peak? So the idea of what Laszlo called the peak experience, and what Colin Wilson later developed as a technique of transcendence, which was what Emerson and all were talking about, was transcendental magic. That can I have anything, can I cultivate a way of life that I have these peak experiences on a regular basis? You know, that's what the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra is all about. That's what this meditation is all about, is to awaken that sensibility in you. If you meditate 1 hour a day and you're anxious for 5, 7 hours, what's the use? Give up meditating. Not worth it, you know, just not worth it. Go do something else, go work out, go to the gym, kick ass, I don't know. But don't meditate if it doesn't make you a better person. Don't meditate and do mantras unless you're really a good person and trying hardest to be a good person in everything you do and seeing magic everywhere you go. This is what the numinous life is all about, to be so awe-filled of the miracle of this existence that you're perpetually seeing magic in it.